Welcome to Kaleidoscope. It seems like a long time since Kaleidoscope has been on. And in that meantime, we had a flood, and we had a street fair, and we had some misdoings maybe at OU, and we had a visit from a small parrot-like bird, and we had a number fest, and et cetera, and we even had a tornado. And Jane had an emergency in her family and can't be with us today. Actually, not only did she have an emergency with her family, but she went to the Cleveland Clinic and had a needle stuck in her eye, which reminds me that my middle daughter used to, when she made promises, used to say, "Cross my heart and hope I die, stick a needle in my eye." And I'm so sorry, Jane, and I hope you're doing better and can return to us soon. But we have a guest co-host today, Tyler Goldberg. Hi, Kyler.
Kyler? Tyler.
Huh?
Nothing. Hey, how are you doing, man?
Is it Tyler?
Yeah, it is.
What, did I say it wrong?
You said Kyler for a second.
I did, Tyler.
It's just...
Well, anyway, you know, if we were on NPR, they blip out things like and mistakes. So, everyone knows that I have a word finding problem, and he doesn't know it, but Tyler is currently auditioning to replace me as co-host of Kaleidoscope when I retire in September, right? We'll see how he does.
Yep.
I didn't prepare him for that. Well, we have actually a clip from you this week. And I didn't say the name of the bird correctly, the species or whatever.
Pluto is our bird, me and my girlfriend, and he's a parrotlet. He's the parrotlet, the smallest species of parrot. He's about
smallest species
that
of
big.
parrot. Okay, well, we'll just start off the show with a visit from Pluto. you may have been as surprised as I was to see Pluto kissing Kate, because I thought that beak might be a little sharp. But earlier in the week, I overheard Tyler talking, maybe to Matt, about subsequently being attacked by Pluto. So would you tell us that little story?
Sure. He gets a little feisty sometimes. I was over at Katie's mom's house, and we were sitting outside, me and Pluto. He had his cage outside, and Katie's mom came home with a plastic little bird that was about the same size as Pluto, and it said that if you pull this tag out, it's a motion-sensing bird that chirps. So anytime anything goes by it, it chirps. But we were outside, so all the shadows and the wind of the trees blowing around just made it constantly go. And Pluto really loved the bird at first. He was doing like little flips. He was so excited. I've never seen him do that. And he was chirping, and then I got this thing out, and it just wouldn't shut up, and it started to annoy me. So I clipped it in his cage a little bit before it just got too chirpy. I took it out, and I was trying to find a way to stop the sound, and I accidentally broke off its feet, and Pluto was watching me, and then I shoved something up its backside to get it to stop making sound. Not Pluto, up the plastic book, not Pluto. And so then it stops making sound, and since it had no feet, I just set it in the cage. And I went inside to see Katie and came back about an hour later, and Pluto was on the opposite side of the cage, sitting on a branch that he never sits on, and he was all puffed up, and he looked like he was very angry, and he was as far away from this thing as he could get, and when I tried to get my hand in there to take it out, he went nuts and started biting me, and I think he thinks that that was like his first friend and I murdered it, because as soon as I took it out of the cage, my girlfriend was like, get it out of his line of sight because he's just going to freak out, so I just tossed it over my shoulder. And that didn't, yeah, he's really intuitive, very smart, and very like emotionally intelligent. He is smart. He's 1 year old, and he's way smarter than a 1 year old child. And I think though that was him rationalizing that I kind of took away his best friend. So he was mad at me for a couple days.
Where did he attack you?
Oh, he got my finger a few times, and he can break skin, but he doesn't. He knows not to bite me or Katie, but he'll bite other
ordinarily.
people. Right. Well, I was his first kiss. I taught him how to kiss.
Really?
Yeah. Katie was afraid to kiss him at first.
Oh.
And now he just loves to kiss her.
Well, he's a great bird, and that was a great cage. You all
Yeah.
decorated that cage over time.
Yeah, he's got a lot of space-themed stuff in there, kind of sticking with his name.
Well, I didn't mention that Tyler is a work-study employee at Public Access. So you told me that you saw some of the movies at the Film Fest, but first we're going to an interview with Alexa reviewing the Film Fest. Alexa Ross. I hope you remember our third co-producer of Kaleidoscope, and she's making an appearance today to tell you about the International Film Festival just recently passed. Welcome, Alexa.
Thank you, Nan.
Alexa Ross.
Alexa Abercrombie Ross.
All
That's
right.
me. Well, Athens has so much to offer, and one of the high points of the year has got to be the film festival. I went every day, morning to night. One night I went home early, about 9 o'clock, and the last day of the festival there was a thunderbolt or something, lost power, so the end of the festival didn't happen. I did not party across the street like a lot of people, and a lot of these filmmakers come from all over the country, and especially in the morning you might have half a dozen people or fewer watching the film. But they always have a bunch of feature films. You get very adept at studying this. This was my Bible, figuring out what I wanted to see, how I was going to do it, they repeat these large films several times in the week. And a couple of them they are playing as regular features. La Force Majeure, about an avalanche in the French Alps happening to a Swedish family. They aren't injured, but it affects their relationships. Another feature film that was fantastic was Timbuktu, that lets you know how difficult life can be when the Taliban or other extremist Islamists are controlling your society. A devastating film, fantastic. There was one in Haiti after the earthquake.
Not, you said Islamists. Is that, is this not proper to say that?
Well, I don't know. It took place in Mali, and I don't know if you can call them Taliban, but the extremists.
Okay, the extremists.
Yes. One, I had to walk out. It was just too dull. I'm not into experimental things. I don't have that much patience. But
It's too dull?
yeah. I mean, if you want to watch someone holding up a sign for 5 minutes in the middle of a Chinese traffic jam, go see Stray Dogs. But I didn't have the patience. There was a beautiful Song of the Sea, an animated production about silkies, half seal, half human, in Ireland. Murder in Pecos. Leviathan I didn't get to see, although Alden Library, if you look carefully, you will find what they have from previous film festivals. They buy it. And they had Leviathan, another movie called Leviathan, a couple of years ago.
Now, will you tell us a little more about the fantastic film Timbuktu?
No.
Aww.
There were so many good films. Girlhood, about black French girl gangs
Wow.
around Paris.
Around Paris, I thought it was Timbuktu.
Okay, that was a great film, but do you want to know the plot?
Well, a little bit about it. What made it so great? Because you started out with it and said, fantastic.
Well, this couple with a daughter live on the sand in a tent, and they have a neighbor boy who herds their few cattle. And they're very engaging, but the Taliban comes around. You can get lashed for listening to music. It showed people buried with only their heads showing, preparatory to being stoned to death. Smoking, illegal. It's pretty scary.
I don't know why teenage females would like to run away to the Taliban or ISIS with that kind of treatment.
It's very sad. They live near a river, and there's a fisherman always repairing his nets, and the prize cow or bull, whose name is GPS for some reason, crossing the river, gets caught up in the nets. The boy can't move quickly enough to deter this animal, and the fisherman, who has warned the boy to keep the cattle out of his nets, throws a spear and kills the animal. And the boy runs back crying to the owner, who was really crazy about this animal and had plans for its offspring and everything. And he has a gun, and he takes it, and he struggles with the fisherman, and the fisherman is killed, and his life is essentially over too. It's very sad, but so engaging. His wife was so lovely, and she runs off to see him just before he's executed, and she gets it too. And the end of the film, the little girl is running for her life. You don't know what's going to happen to her. There was
Most of the pictures that you pay to see out in the real world don't have that kind of bad ending.
Bad. Yeah.
Sad.
Yes. Yes, that's what's so interesting about international films. We're used to all these American conventions, but it opens your eyes. You explore your own humanity seeing these things. There was another one, Class Enemy, about a German teacher in Slovenia, and a student commits suicide, and the whole class turns against him. Fascinating. Appropriate Behavior, about a Persian woman who's gay and her parents don't know, and her kind of double life.
Was that the funny one?
No, that one was the Foxy Merkins.
That sounds funny.
Madeline Olneck, who I think went to OU Film School, and she spoke about it. And it was so hilarious because it was about lesbian hookers in Manhattan, and they hang out in front of Talbot's ladies' wear store. And I asked her in the talk back, did Talbot's have anything to say? She said, well, it's actually a fair use. You know, it's a public place, so you know, maybe they never found out what was happening. But these two friends, they sleep on the floor of the bathroom of the Port Authority at night and do their lesbian hooking. And a merkin is a little triangle of fur that you wear over your private part in case you have some kind of syphilis that has disfigured you, or I don't know, foxy merkins. And there's a guy in a trench coat selling all these little triangles of different colors.
Oh.
It was very strange.
Is there such a thing?
I doubt it, but it was hilarious. And you know, you have to make, there's 3 theaters there. You have to make a choice. You can't see everything. You're lucky if you see a third of the things. And from my point of view, all these shorter films are categorized by Ruth Bradley into a kind of a theme. So I know to stay away from experimental because I'm not that patient, but some of them are about.
What was your theater you went to?
Well, they were all scheduled
you
for
said
different
3 theaters. Okay.
Yeah.
So what category?
Well,
Grimm.
You read your choice. You have families. There's a wonderful one about a woman in a head-on collision and her very slow recovery. She was a doctor. She and her girlfriend adopted a child with MS, and they lived in a Buddhist community outside San Francisco where there was no internet.
You say Buddhist or
yes,
nudist?
Buddhist, yeah. So it's just an amazing week of your life if you can work it in, and all the films are free before 5 o'clock.
Well, thank you so much for enlightening us, and maybe we can tell folks prior to next year's to watch out for it.
It's just such a valuable resource, and
Wow.
I wish I could see everything, but I did the best I could.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Alexa Abercrombie Ross. I mentioned earlier that we had a tornado recently, but I didn't tell you that I was in Walmart during the tornado, and my daughter had asked me to pick up a photo back in the photo shop. So when I went there, it was just filled with people, and I asked a staff member, "Are you supposed to take a number?" And he said something like, "It's the safest place in the building." And I thought I had misheard, because sometimes I have trouble hearing. So after a while, I made myself a little clearer and asked what was going on, and they said the photo place in Walmart is the safest place in the building, and people and even employees were crowding into it not to get killed if a tornado struck
who reported that it had set down, the tornado had set down in Coolville, and was keeping us up to date on what happened. Fortunately, it kind of skipped Athens, except out on Lurig Road or Radford Road, I forget which, outside of the city limits. But anyway, that was pretty exciting. So, want to tell you that I have shot my last street fair. Never again, never again. It's really something, but it is fun. Maybe I'll go there without a camcorder, just to enjoy. But did you go to street fair?
Yeah, I did. I was there for a little bit before the Number Fest. I was walking around looking for some food, and I had been there years before, or for a couple years I went out, and the food is always really, really awesome. The lines, though, were pretty nuts, so I couldn't get the food that I wanted. I was looking particularly at these like teriyaki kebabs that looked really good. But I ended up going over to a Chinese stand that was making fresh spring rolls, and those were like the best spring rolls that I've ever had. They were really fresh, really, really, really like kind of greasy, which I don't know. It was just really good though. It had a really great flavor. So, and then after that, I went back to my house to prepare for the Number Fest and went out to that.
And how did you get to Number Fest?
Well, it started where we had heard that they were shuttling people over from Palmer Place in buses, so we walked over there with all our beer and stuff, and it looked like everybody was waiting for a spaceship to touch down. I couldn't even believe how many people were there, and without even thinking about standing in line, I said, let's just walk. So we started walking immediately.
You walked? And what time was
Yeah,
this?
we walked all the way. That was about 3:30, and we got there around 4:30. I think it was about a 5-mile walk. And the thing is, though, that everybody I was with was underage, except for my girlfriend and myself. So I had to carry everybody's beer. So I had like a cooler, and she had a case, and at times I had the cooler and the case, and walking for 5 miles.
You didn't say underage. This goes out to everybody.
No, no.
No, I didn't think so. No.
No, no, no.
No, no. Well,
No, yeah.
I too started to drive by Palmer Place, and I couldn't believe all those students. I thought, was this Palmer Fest? So I pulled over to take a video of all these students, and it was right across from the pharmacy. And before I got my door open, people approached me saying, I'll pay you to drive me to the fairgrounds. And I'll say, well, that's okay. I won't charge you because I live right near the fairgrounds. So they all hopped in, 4 of them, and we came down to 682 to turn onto West Union, and all the crowds were going to the left, not to the right. So I said, it looks to me like, is the fest really at the fairgrounds? And one of them said, well, I'm not sure where it is. So, and somebody looked on a piece of paper and it said 8,000 West Union. We were about 200 West Union. So I let them out. And I asked them if they'd been to the International Student Fair, because there was a lot of good entertainment there. Mm-hmm. And they said no, and I said, did you know about it? And they said no. Well, then I got to thinking, should it be more publicized? Because if all those students who are at Palmer Place ended up at the street fair, it would be too many people.
Oh yeah,
so there's
it would be way too many people.
There's kind of a middle ground that is ideal. But I did take the street fair, and
So what was the problem with why is it your last street fair that you're taping? You just Was it stressful for you?
Oh, no, because I'm retiring from Access in September, except for family videos. Well, at least I'm glad you went to the street fair.
Yeah, yeah. I think that a lot of the kids around this campus didn't even know about it.
Right.
And even so, I don't think that you wanted that crowd there because a lot of them were really disrespectful. I saw so many fights on my way out and into the fest. I saw a kid get ripped out of his car and somebody beat him up. And we were walking like with the traffic, so as soon as we saw a car, we were with that car the entire way. And so people were trash talking back and forth, and then the drivers would think they could just speed off, but we'd catch up to everybody in like 20 seconds. And some of the other people walking on the streets were so belligerently drunk that they just took things too far.
Well, I did discover, I guess, in the newspaper why there were so many people stuck at Palmer Street. It's because they quit running the shuttle buses. That was a decision because the students were so boisterous and rowdy. So there are all these hundreds and hundreds of students at Palmer Street waiting for the shuttle bus, I guess, all day.
Yeah.
And then at least you decided to walk. But the
Yeah,
sidewalks were crowded.
Yeah, they were. But I also think that they had a big problem with the buses and putting students on because kids were just climbing up through windows of the buses and opening the back doors and piling in, even when the buses weren't taking anybody at all. Kids were throwing up on the buses and having fights. And so I think at one point they stopped the bus service, but still everybody would see an empty bus kind of go by or try and get out, and it would just get attacked by kids.
Well, and I heard the owner or whatever of the fest was complaining about drunk, boisterous
Oh,
kids.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is.
Right. Well, that was the first time that I've ever gone to a fest, and
Is it the last time?
probably, honestly, I didn't really have that much fun. I had a good time. I was with my girlfriend and some of her friends, and we lost them really fast, and then it was just me in the mud, bracing her and getting like thrown around kind of a lot and getting elbowed in the ribs and stuff. And And I made the mistake of wearing my only pair of shoes, so those got destroyed, and now I'm here in sweatpants and dress shoes.
Whatever you do, don't throw your old shoes over the trees.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try and salvage them. They've been running through the wash for a few days. Every time that I put it in the dryer, the shoes kick the dryer open, so I'll come back 20 minutes later, and they'll have dried not at all. So this is attempt number 3.
Yeah, well, it'll be difficult to sit them out in the sun because
Right.
we're having patches of frost now.
Mm-hmm.
So the weather's not holding very well. Well, at the street fair, I really enjoyed watching a little dancer dancing. I was enchanted with her, and this music was going on in the background. I wanted to grab a hold of her dancing, so I did it slow motion.
Mm.
So you can't hear the music in the background at that time because it goes like So I wonder how much I mentioned about the Mom's Weekend at the beginning of the show.
Mm.
It was in the paper. A number of the male students were trying to hook up with the moms. Surely I can find something nice about OU to talk about. Well, there was the bats in the belfry that Jane commented on last week. And there's been a call for an independent investigation of what transpired, but the president of OU encouraged a deal with a local landlord to move from his bat-infested home on the OU campus into I won't say how many $1 million, because I'm not going to be accurate, but a fancy house. And I think on last Kaleidoscope we had a little bit of the protest staged at his on-campus house, and elsewhere on Access there is a full coverage of that protest. And I don't know if it's 50 or 100 professors who have signed a letter of protest about the transaction. It seems to me like where some of the ruckus between the president and the faculty has to do with the president focusing more on athletics. For example, I think they have a special program they're starting anyway to help OU sports folks with their homework, and not the other students. So, but the thing is, probably the main reason the president's doing this is because OU alumni, that's the main thing they're focusing on. They come back for the games and they contribute, and they probably all year rooting for OU, and OU needs the money, but I guess they maybe don't spend it too appropriately.
Mm.
But the dumbest thing by far to me the past week related to OU is the number of students who are pushing for concealed weapons on campus. Now, if you can imagine if those students at Numberfest were carrying concealed weapons.
Yeah, I think that OU students are probably the last ones you want to have concealed weapons. I mean, that's just, I'm not speaking for all the students. There's a large population on this campus that are awesome, awesome people, but for the most part, and I've lived in several different places my entire life in different states and gone to a different college too. This college seems to be very aggressive. People are very short-tempered and trying to pick fights often, and I could tell that that may be a reason for others to want some form of defense, especially with the amount of emails we get about rape and robbings and muggings. And I mean, I can understand that some people don't feel safe, but at the same time, if something like that goes through, the dangerous ones have the same right to carry a weapon as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Well, we carried earlier in the year a story about Ohio State students suing Ohio State for not letting them carry concealed weapons there. But they must not have settled that suit or would have been quoted at this point. But I'll tell you what I am for. I am for being able to carry concealed wasp or hornet spray. Evidently, that's really powerful.
Well, like it has a mace effect, kind of? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, even worse. Yeah, it's about the worst thing I think that you can do. It's really, yeah.
Well, do you think it'll blind you? Or
Not
you kind of
forever.
I see.
But yeah, that would be a good substitute. I don't know. It's like sometimes the ivory tower fantasizes too much.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, there'd be a lot of self-injuries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that this school is wild enough, and throwing weapons into the mix would be a bad idea, personally. I mean, if you're really concerned about your safety on this campus, don't put yourself in situations that might be dangerous, you know. There are times when you know people are going to be out drunk and belligerent, and there are times when they won't be, so, you know, just choose what you do, you know.
But hopefully
responsibly.
with wasp spray instead of...
Or carry some wasp spray.
Okay, well, I attended a demonstration on the steps of the courthouse Tuesday, and it was very rewarding, and they were getting a petition signed about fracking, and let's see what they had to say.
Is this number Yeah, it's 5 after.
Maybe she should get on the other side of the line.
I told her that, but I don't know.
How come?
She's filming actually this process of signing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we start, she'll move and start following. Okay?
Elena?
Yes, that was close.
Close.
If they would excuse one more, I'd be sitting on that dragon off the street. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that. Oh, she's there. Yeah. If they would excuse one more person, I'd be on that. Oh. That's how close it was. All right.
Sally, do you want to read something?
Here we go. And I need another one. Dick? Where? It's a filled up one. Where do we want it?
Slow here.
I guess we'll
I could
rate
give
the
you
last one now.
He's doing these.
Rate the last one. That's
Good try. God. I know it's getting speakers.
Or would you rather read this?
I just pull this line here.
Yeah, this is it, right across there. You're good.
You want, actually, it would be nice if you'd read 5 and 6.
A sign and, what's 5? Where's 5? It's that one.
You can read it.
I don't have that. Okay, so I don't have that new one. I got the old one you gave us last night. Have you moved things around? This is
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Well, I'm still after Barb. I'm still after Barb. That's all I know. Yeah.
Okay, everybody.
We filled one up.
Can I have your attention, please? We're going to have a short press conference. I want to thank everybody for coming. If we have any elected officials, we want to thank you for coming. Certainly the press. We're happy to have you here. I think today we're really making history. This is a historic moment. We're launching a new campaign for a county charter in Athens. We ask you to join us by signing this petition. And tonight, 5 o'clock, those of you interested in helping with signature gathering, we need to collect about at least 2,000 signatures from all over Athens County. By this action, you will join us in the fight to protect our health and safety for ourselves, for our children, and for our grandchildren. We do not enter into this step lightly. To paraphrase Thomas Jefferson, the present form of county government, long established, should not be changed for light and transient causes. Respect for the opinions of all Ohioans compels us to declare the causes which have driven us to propose this new charter form of government. By this charter, we, the people, propose to secure the right of all county residents to live in a clean and safe environment and to participate in county government. These rights are presently denied to most citizens under the statutory form of county government and township government. We declare the right to refuse to live under state law, House Bill 278. This onerous bill denies our constitutional right to self-government, permits the regulation of gas and oil entirely to be done in the state of Ohio by the Ohio Division of Natural Resources. This is the agency that issues my fishing license. This is contrary to the Ohio State Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, which declares that all political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal protection and benefit, and they have a right to alter, reform, or abolish that government whenever they may deem it necessary. By this charter, we exercise this right. John Howell.
Thanks, Dick. The proposed charter for Athens County does two things. The first thing it does, it gives to those of us who live in the county but not within the city the rights of initiative, referendum, and recall. Secondly, it protects our water supplies and thus our health and safety. Well, what are these rights of initiative, referendum, and recall? These are rights of local democracy to protect us from government at the state and federal levels gone awry under the influence of corporate interests. Initiative is the right of citizens to write our own laws and submit them to our fellow citizens for their judgment, which is necessary when government institutions fail. Referendum is the right of citizens to vote on issues and laws generated either by the initiative process or by legislative processes. It allows our county commissioners to place an issue on the ballot for the voters to render their judgment. It empowers our local county leaders to take any steps on our behalf not expressly forbidden by state law, and allows them to initiate things that are unspecified by state law in the protection of us who live in the county. Recall, of course, is the right of citizens to petition for the removal of local officials prior to their elected terms. Such petitions are, like initiatives, submitted to the voters for their judgment. Recall is only necessary in response to egregious failure of elected officials, failure which may threaten citizen well-being. We are fortunate in Athens County to have enjoyed, for the most part, excellent leadership by our elected officials, but exceptions could arise. Article 10, Section 3 of the Ohio Constitution permits counties to adopt charter form of government in order to claim these rights. 2 of Ohio's 88 counties are already charter counties. They are Cuyahoga and Summit. And both Medina and Athens counties are seeking to become charter counties in this election cycle. The proposed charter does not change any other aspect of county government function. It seeks only to claim these rights and to protect the county's water supplies, as will be described by Barb Campagnola and Milena Miller. Barb.
By this charter, we propose to protect our right to live in a clean and safe environment. We propose to end the shameful practice of using Athens County as a sacrifice zone and a dumping ground for waste products of unknown, secret, highly suspicious, and possibly radioactive contents. According by this charter, it shall be lawful for any private or public entity, and I'm going to pass this on to Milena Miller. It shall be unlawful for any private or public entity to deposit, store, treat, inject, dispose of, or process wastewater, produced water, frack water, brine, or other substances, chemicals, or byproducts that have been used in or result from the extraction of shale gas and oil by high-volume horizontal hydraulic fracturing on or onto the land, air, or waters of Athens County. That's everything, folks. That's everything in Athens County. That's all of us. However, this prohibition shall not include wastewater produced inside the county by conventional, shallow, vertical drilling methods. Keep that in mind, okay? Engage in the procurement or extraction of any water from any source, including public water sources within the county, for use in high-volume hydraulic fracturing for extraction of shale gas and oil. And I just want to say, I'm one of the 70,000 people who was exposed for years and decades to C8 in our water supply. So if you don't think it can happen, and you don't think, and that was here in Athens County and northern West Virginia, and you know, we're still battling that. We're still battling that. Most of my neighbors on South Canaan Road are dead and gone from all those cancers. This is really important. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Milena.
Well, you didn't facilitate underage drinking, did you?
No, no, no. I would never do that. I was walking to the fest, and for 5 miles I had to carry this alcohol because I couldn't legally hand it off to anybody around me. They weren't old enough to drink. So if they had been walking with the alcohol, they'd have gotten in trouble. But that's why I had to carry it all the way myself. So there wasn't even an option for help.
Good Lord.
No, they didn't do any drinking.
You must have felt as tired that day as I did after taping the Fruits Fair.
Right, I'm still feeling tired from that day. My legs are shaking still. I mean, it felt like 10 hours of basketball practice. The way that you're getting beat around and had to stay in one spot, kind of backing people off. It was interesting.
Oh, gracious. And in order to take videos, you didn't take any videos, did you?
No, I didn't. I took some pictures, though.
You took some pictures?
Yeah. Just on my phone.
But they wouldn't, now, do they have a rule against that or not?
Not that I saw. I think that because I, in the past, was going to be a part of a team that regularly shoots the Numberfest, and I ended up not being a part of that team. But I think with proper permission, you can shoot freely. And honestly, most people bring in their own cameras anyways. I don't think that they're going to come hunting for you. So you can shoot freely, I'm pretty sure.
Well, if they're not going to come hunting for you, how about giving us one shot?
One
Because
picture?
you know the Post did not shoot any. Did you read the Post?
No.
They did. They said we're not going to have any photos at the fest because they insist on okaying them or seeing them first or blah blah blah.
Oh, interesting. Well,
So,
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that they don't want a negative backlash, people documenting bad things like fights and stuff like
done that, haven't we?
Yeah, well, that's media, though.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we're going to end with just a very, very brief shot of the Ohio River rising, because I didn't get out to the boondocks where the Hockhocking River. Is it Hocking or Hockhocking? Some of the times it's referred to as the Hockhocking River.
Well, I'm not from this area, but my understanding was it was the Hocking River.
Yeah, I think the Hockhocking was in earlier days that they called it that. Okay, and let's go to the Ohio River briefly. And in fact, right now, maybe we can tell our audience goodbye and wish Jane good luck in her recuperation and look forward to her laughter and spunkiness next time. And you can write and tell us whether you approve of Tyler, his performance today as a co-producer to replace me in September.
Oh, yeah, I was
Okay.
really a shining star.
Let's get Tyler in there. Can you switch cameras? Can you get a two-shot? Yeah, there, okay. Goodbye, Athens, till
Bye,
next
Athens.
time.
Till next time.